Great. Okay, so next up, speaking with us, we have Dan. Dan is going to give us an intro into shopping ads. So really good for those of you that have got e-commerce websites. Dan is our senior paid media account manager here at Anicca, specializing in the PPC side of things. He graduated from DMU as he studied on multimedia computing. And then worked as an online marketing manager for a white goods company for 7 years. He's got a broad skill set that covers many channels and has worked in a small team as well for a family company. And you'd oversee a range of things, including PPC, SEO, social, affiliate, email, and content. So he's got a wide range of skills. So brilliant for our talk today. So I'm going to hand over now to Dan and tell you a bit more about shopping ads. Might be having a few technical issues here again for Dan. Let me just see if we can get him back with us. Just going to try to get it back together. Or Phil. So while we're waiting for Dan, just a reminder that obviously we are supporting Charity Link today. So feel free to donate. It'd be great to for you guys to donate, and thank you to everyone that's donated so far already. Just put the pop out there for you. Yay! Right, I'll leave you to it, Dan.
Lovely. I'll talk quick. All right. Hello, everybody. Jess gave me an intro, so I'll just quickly go over it. I'm what she said. Been here a while. 3 years. Been doing it over 10 years. I've done loads and bits and bobs in all the other arts as well. What we'll be going through is what shopping ads are, the types of shopping ads, what they look like, what you'll need to get started. Sort of the Merchant Center is sort of the handler of the feed, so you need an account in there as well. So the feed formats and examples of what the feed will be, and setting it up, and then your structure and how and what to create, because there's a few different types of shopping campaigns available, and then your optimizations, and then just a quick summary of what's after that. So shopping ads, they were formerly known as PLAs, or product listing ads, and it's an advertising platform that has been provided by Google. That's not necessarily pay-per-click anymore, because you can join something called surfaces across Google. So it's just the same thing. You upload your feed into Merchant Center, but instead of opting into product listing ads or shopping ads, you can just opt into surfaces across Google, which are free. But you get your. I've not included any slides, so I'll just do a quick sort of description, which is where you'd usually see in your shopping results, like the list of products and the pictures. Underneath that, you'll have more pictures, which it looks exactly the same on desktop, but it's just as and when Google decide to display them, and they're free, so you can get your products out there and not actually have to pay anything now. So Google Shopping allows customers to search for, view, and compare your products online. In order to compare your products online, you may have to include a few more columns or attributes to your feed, which we'll go over later. So it just the more information you can put in, the better your products will perform. Shopping works a little bit differently to search campaigns, as there are no keywords. There's still search intent there. There's still the intent behind the customers searching, because they are still Google matches your title and description to your products, so that people are finding what they want still. But it's just a little bit more visual, because you can put your product images and product additional images in, so that they can actually see what they're getting. And these products are displayed when a customer uses Google search, when a user searches Google for a product. And I've got some examples of where they show. So it's not just on the search engine results page, but you have the shopping tab as well. There are three main types of shopping campaigns available, which is product shopping ads, showcase shopping ads, and local inventory ads. So these are what Google described them as. So these are created based on your product data that you submit in Merchant Center. And Showcase, you'll create these in Google Ads by grouping related products together. We'll have a little bit more information on these later on anyway. So users or customers can compare several of your products that are sort of like the same type. So it might be your range of chainsaws, or your range of watches, or your range of running shoes, or whatever. And then we've got local inventory ads, which allow you to showcase your product shop information to nearby shoppers. So if you want a TV from somewhere local, you upload an inventory feed to Merchant Center, and it will say that you can collect this nearby. I think Sup mentioned about people searching a lot more keywords like something near me, or something shops nearby, or something like that. So they're really useful. So this is what a product shopping ad looks like in the search engine results page. So you search for whatever you want. This here in the blue is the main sort of area that you'll see shopping ads, and then they can appear on the right hand side as well. Just underneath that, you'll see where it says the little word says ad. That's a paid ad. So that's what we refer to as a search ad. And then below that again is the organic, which is what Suck deals with. But then there are other areas where your shopping ads will appear, which is in the shopping tab here. So where it says images and maps and more. If you go over to shopping, this is where it allows you to do your filtering of your products. And if you just do your required columns for your products in your feed, which we'll go through later, you won't have the ability to filter them. So ideally with stuff like this, you'd add your color, sort of the gender, you'd add the material, maybe pattern, just as many columns or attributes as you can fill in, the better, because when you start filtering them down, if yours doesn't have this information, your products will disappear from the filter. So it's ideal to get as much information into the feed as you possibly can before you submit it to Merchant Center. If you don't, you can have a supplement feed and add these afterwards. So if your website isn't capable of producing all that information, you can do it by hand afterwards. That's a little bit more advanced though, so we won't be going through that today. So this is what a showcase shopping ad looks like. They're more likely to fire on mobile, but yeah, it will show you. So you'll search for something like dresses, and you'll get ASOS's collection of dresses, or winter dresses, or watch selection. It could be grouped together of anything that you want. So you can group together your chainsaw collection, your bush cut collection, your washing machine collection, your TV collection, anything you want. So you can group them all together, and that is essentially your popular range of those products to get people clicking. And you set your your sort of logo, your little description, and your main product image there, which is, well, your main store image there. So this is what a local inventory ad will look like. So it will say you can collect today, or you can collect in store, and they will show people to people that are in your area as I think sub-displays. He mentioned about you're taking your location from Google. It takes your most nearby location, so it could be down to your postcode as like LE6 or LE1 or LE4, but it could just take your village or your city as well, but it will know relatively where you are and which shops are nearby, and if them shops carry stock. So this used to be only available if you had more than one store, but now it's available to everybody, so it's really handy. Getting started. So what you'll need, to sign up to a Google Ads account, you will have to have a Gmail account. You'll need a Google Ads account and a Merchant Center account, which is your sort of middleman, and then you'll link your Merchant Center account to your Google Ads account, because essentially what's happening is there's a graph on this later on, or a little diagram later on. Merchant Center is the middleman of Merchant Center collects up your feed, and then you can use the product information in that feed to go into Google Ads. So it sort of collates all the data into a way that Google Ads can use it. And then you'll need a website full of products to sell. So how they work is your shopping ads use your existing Merchant Center product data, not the keywords, to decide how and where to show your ads. So the product data you submit through Google Merchant Center, the details that you put in there will match up to what you want to sell. But there's a bit more on that as well. But what you essentially want to do is get all of your key information within the first 70 characters of your product title. So when you're putting your products onto your website, you probably want to keep that in mind, because most of the time it just scrapes the website and then you put it straight from that feed, you put it into Merchant Center. So Google uses those details that you provided to match your ads versus what the customer has searched for and what the relevant product would be. So Merchant Center, you may have heard of Google Ads, but you might not have heard of Merchant Center. This is how Google describes it, which is not very helpful at all. But to put it simply, Merchant Center is a middleman for your product data. So the website provides the information with your products on, the links, the images, the description, the title. So all that's on your website. You pull that off. You create a feed from that, which you can do with Shopify or with Magento, or all these different platforms that you use your website. Most of them have an extension to create this feed, a Merchant Center feed. If not, there's quite a few other options that we can go through as well. But what you do is you've got all your product information here. You put it into what is essentially a spreadsheet. You put that spreadsheet into Merchant Center in the way that they want it. So they want required attributes. And then Google Merchant Center will complain if there's anything wrong, and then you'll rectify. And then after that, you'll be able to use that product information in Google Ads to create a campaign. So a feed is your list of products. Within this feed, you'll have a required set of columns, or attributes as Google calls them. And within those attributes is the information that Google requires to allow you to sell your products online, which is essentially keywords without saying that they're actually keywords. So the title is effectively your keywords, which is why you want to get your key information earlier on in those 70 characters, because as you've seen how they look, most of the time the title is truncated, it's cut off. So you want to get as much information as possible earlier on. So the required attributes in the UK is stuff like ID, which ideally would be unique to each product. Then you've got your title, description, the link to the product, the image link to the product. Then you've got, if you want additional links, but that they're not required, additional image links. Availability, so that it's in stock, price, self-explanatory. Your brand, unless it's movie, books, or musical recording devices. GTIN. It's ideal that you do have this so that you can be in the comparison results, so that you're all in the same group of products if you're selling the same thing as your competitors. But if you don't have GTIN, there is a column available for identifier exists equals false. So you can just put false if there's not a GTIN. If you don't have a GTIN as well, you might need an MPN. If your MPN must be unique. So your ID might not be, but your MPN must be, so that each product is identified individually. Then you've got condition and your shipping as well if it's not set in Merchant Center. There is a slide explaining that a little bit more later on as well. Google requires additional information if you're selling in different countries. So for instance, delivery costs. Say for instance, if you were delivering to different states in the US, you may have a different delivery cost. I know that different states in the US have different tax codes as well. As I say, if you're selling like clothes, anything like that, you will want to put in your color material, and then if it's part of a multi-pack or a bundle, gender and size you want to include as well. So some places actually these are requirements. So some product types, these are requirements. So your feed formats. As I mentioned, you can upload it in multiple ways. If you do Google Sheets, if you've got perhaps just 10, 20 products to test out to begin with, you can use Google Sheets, and after you've selected Google Sheets, you'll go to the next stage, and it will create a Google Sheets template document on your drive. So this will pretty much do the work for you. Then you just populate it with whatever you want. I've done this with a few customers as well, and they just got like pillows and pillowcases, and you put that in. With Google Sheets, the benefit is as well, you can modify your titles whenever you want, but this is a lot more manual. So if you regularly update your prices, and I'd recommend like a scheduled fetch or content API or something like that, because Google Sheets and upload is a very manual process. So if you're changing 20 prices a day or 100 prices a day, you're going to have to go in and manually update those unless it's an automated process. And Anne has done plenty of research into this, into the fact that how much your product cost massively influences the click-through rate as well. So if you're a penny cheaper, people just generally arrange by price. I do it all the time. Price and deliver it, arrange by price and deliver it in the cheapest. As long as that place has got decent reviews, as Suk mentioned, you will purchase from those. So it's up to you how you go about it, but most of the time you don't have to bid too much if you've got a very well-priced product, competitively priced product. So this is an example of the attributes that are within the product feed. So you've got your ID, as we mentioned, generally that they differ for each product. And then with the labels that are here in this example, people do search for so many labels per A4 sheet. So it's 14 anti-tamper labels per A4 sheet. So we've tried to get as much information in as possible in as little characters as possible. So, but then you can elaborate on that in your description. So you can put some more, supporting keywords into your description. But this is what they'll look like, and this is what a link looks like. So it goes directly to that product. Google does check this, so it will have a robot that goes through, and it will say this is the link to this product, and it will check your price and stock availability on your landing page versus what you've put in your feed as well. So if it doesn't match up, product will be disapproved. But then you have your image link that goes directly to the image hosted on your website. It's advised that you put in your Google product category and your product types. If you don't have product types or brands, it's ideal that you want to use custom labels. I mean, I would recommend that you use custom labels so that you can divide up your products into different categories. Usually you'd use like the same layout or category. You'd build the feed in the same way as you'd have your website. So you'd have all of your chainsaws in one area, all of your washing machines be in one area, or your TVs or mobile phones would be in one area, and then and then you'd be able to bid based on that, all on brand. So you'd separate by brand and then by product type. So you'd have Samsung, and then you'd have TVs, Samsung, and then mobile phones, and or audio bars or whatever, I don't know. But this is what I meant about this is what I was referring to earlier on, the shipping and delivery costs. You can set it in the feed, and these colons here are because if you've got different delivery for different places, or different delivery services for different places, like states or areas of the UK. You can set this in Merchant Center. If you do set this in Merchant Center, you can go to the same level of granularity, but Merchant Center's settings will overwrite anything in, oh no, it's the other way around. Anything in the feed will overwrite Merchant Center, I think. Yeah, and I say custom labels are great for structuring your campaigns in Google Ads. So as I've mentioned, best practice, users will only see the first 70 characters or fewer, depending on what the screen size is. So if they're on mobile, that you've got to get as much in as possible early on. So these 70 characters, you want to include as many keywords as you can, that keywords that aren't keywords. It's essentially what you think people will be searching for based on what products you're selling. So you want that early on as possible. So you've got your description. Most people, and what it is viewed is within the first 160 to 500 characters, but it can be up to 5,000 characters. But most essential information should be earlier on. And as I say, be competitively priced, because it can massively affect your click-through rate. Even if you're only bidding 5p for that product to be in that auction, people will arrange by price and delivery and not care at all that, whichever company is bidding the most and being shown the most in that area. Most people are concerned mostly with reviews and price. So often people, if you want to get that uptake, include the delivery cost in the cost of the item, so there's no extra when you get to the checkout. If people are hit with a cost that they didn't think they were going to get, then they won't buy and they'll bounce. So you want to try and offer free delivery if you can. And the recommended attributes, as I say, product category and product type as well, so that you're got a little more granularity. But this is how we'd often structure a campaign once you've got all your information through Merchant Center off your website and onto Google Ads. So most of the time you'll already have a structure in mind, because it will be in your menu system that you use on your website. So it'll be like product types and categories. However, sometimes better to separate the products by brand based on profit margin or something like that. So for instance, if you make a lot more markup on certain products versus others, you might want to keep them into a little bit of a different feed, because you can then start to structure the feeds as high, medium, and low priority. So for instance, you might want your high margin products you bid more on those, and you want to negative out certain keywords that aren't relevant to those products. But because you can bid a little bit more, because you've got more sort of margin available, you might want to keep those separately. But I would always recommend that you go down to the granularity of having an item ID as your last level. So if you're doing a single campaign with all your products in, and you separate it by brand, you always want to make sure that you're separated by MPN at the end, because you can then do some product optimizations. But then you've got the option to have multi-campaign as well. So you might want a campaign for shoes, coats, and hats. You might want a campaign just for those brands, because if you've got Samsung, it may contain multiple other things. So you might want to have Samsung as one of your campaigns, and then you'll have the different types, the different categories after that. So you have Samsung, you have phones, mobile, and TVs, and whatever else they do. So it just depends how you want to divide up your structure or your campaign. But you can have multi-campaign approach, a single campaign approach, but I would always recommend splitting it out by styles or categories or brands, but then always make sure you've got the granularity of item ID. Now, this was only recently, I say recently, it was probably 6 months ago now, but Smart Shopping didn't allow you to separate by item ID. They took all control away, but now they do allow you to do this, so you can actually optimize Smart Shopping a little bit more. I'm just conscious of the time. So we've got Smart Shopping versus traditional shopping. So pros to traditional, you've got more control. So you can overlay all audiences, bid adjustments for time of day, set your campaign priority. As I said, you've got a lot more granularity as well, because you can only have one ad group in a Smart Shopping campaign. So you can split out your data a lot more, your products a lot more. You can add negative keywords for anything that you don't want to be seen for. So for instance, we were selling a fire that was a Faber Buzz, and we got a lot of keywords for Buzz Lightyear. So you don't want to be shown for that. So you want to add that as a negative. You can't do that in Smart. And you've also got a bit more choice of bidding strategies as well. But then the cons for traditional shopping is entirely on you. So you need to optimize, you need to put your bids in. So it requires a lot more time. It will only show in the shopping network, so the search network essentially, and it can be complicated for beginners, and it can take you quite a few hours to go through your search term reports and do all these optimizations. Whereas smart shopping, it's a lot more simplified, and Google does a lot of the work for you. Google's machine learning capabilities allow for large amounts of data to be optimized. It can find your ideal audience. It can up the bids and down the bids for certain people. It knows when you launch smart shopping, it will be really high cost, then it will be really low cost because it's learning. And then it will level out in the end. But that's getting your sort of ideal placements for how much budget you've given that campaign and how much it can put into different products to get it into the right sort of area and try and make sales. And the dynamic display remarketing, if you've got a remarketing pixel set up on your website and your MPN on your website matches the feed, it can dynamically remarket those ads for you, so it can follow past customers around with recently what they've previously watched or looked at. It can follow them around and redisplay and try and re-engage them as well. So cons is the reporting is limited. There's not pretty much no data is available. You can't see search terms, you can't see your placements, you can't see pretty much anything. No negative keywords, and there's the lack of granularity, as say you can only create one ad group. So another con is that Google will then, it's all Google, and they want the machines to take over, and you're pretty much printing money for them because you don't know what's going on. So optimizations, as I said, everything seems to have moved down an inch here. So it's actually in your search terms on the left, and it's when you find sort of deer food and you don't sell deer food, you add it as a negative keyword. So that little green bar is actually about an inch lower. So once you've gathered some impressions, you can start to optimize and add negative keywords. You can do the same with product analysis. As I said, if you've got each product segmented out in your structure, you can then see which products are working and which ones aren't. I wouldn't recommend just pausing them. I'd recommend that if they don't work and you've spent 13 quid and your CPA, your ideal cost per acquisition is only 8 quid, what you want to do is not pay 21p a click anymore, just bid 5p. Keep it in the auction, which lower the bid significantly so that you're still there, and you've still got that presence, but you're not paying much to be like higher up in that auction. And make sure your product is competitively priced. With traditional shopping, we've got not a lot of time left. With traditional shopping, we've got a few bidding strategies, a couple of automated bidding strategies that you can use. So you can test those out, target return on ad spend, maximize your clicks, or you can just do it manual CPC for more control. With smart shopping, you only have maximized conversion value, and if you set one that's a bit too tough, it will just start lowering all the bids and you'll start to disappear. So yeah, you can overlay audiences to optimize your traditional shopping, not smart shopping. So you can say previous visitors or people that have been to the cart and abandoned. You can say those, we know the intent is there. We can put a plus 50% bid adjustment on those because we know that somebody has been to the sort of area where they were going to purchase. You can do the same for devices. If your website doesn't work as well on mobile, you can put a minus 50% bid adjustment. But just in summary, what you'll need to do if you want to set them up is sign up for Merchant Center, ensure that your Merchant Center is linked to Google Ads, create the feed, upload the feed, and then you can start using all that product information in Google Ads to create your shopping campaigns, and then you get lots of profit. So I have written a blog on this, how to do it step by step. So you can visit the Anicca website resources. We've got plenty of resources available, and you can follow that. But anything else, get in touch.
Thanks so much, Dan. If you have got any questions for Dan, his email address is on the screen at the moment, so feel free to drop him an email. And again, we are on Twitter, so feel free to tweet us using the hashtag #AskAnicca as well. And any of those questions will go straight to Dan and he'll be able to answer them. But thank you so much, Dan. Great to have you with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for listening to me waffle.